Hi everybody, Forerata Live here again with another Keyforge video. This time I'm looking at some of the Mass Mutation cards we've seen previewed, the next set that's coming out for Keyforge, and I'll be talking about my views on the best Mass Mutation cards. And just to be clear before we start, this is a totally unscientific process. It's just the cards I think that look great. But it'd be really good to hear in the comments or in your feedback what you think the best cards are looking like, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, whether there's other cards you've seen in Mass Mutation that you're getting excited for. But these are my favourites, and let's have a look at them. First up, Amphora Captura, a Saurian artifact. We've seen this in one of the print and play decks, and to be honest, this is here because of the amount of enhance it puts in your deck. 2 amber, 2 damage, and 2 draw pips. And also, when you're resolving bonus icons, you can choose to resolve them as capture instead of whatever pip they tend to be. So you're unlikely to do that perhaps for amber pips. Amber into your pool is probably better than capturing. But for those damage pips, if there's nothing out there worth damaging, draw even, you might choose to capture instead, and could be quite powerful. As I've said, the reason this is in here is because this is the most number of enhancements we've seen on a single card, 6 going into the deck. Now, having said that, it's a rare card. Are you going to see lots of these floating around? Probably not. When we look at the previous sets in terms of rarity, rare cards come up about 9.5% of the time. Uncommons 24%, commons somewhere between 64-66%. So roughly 1 card in every 10 is rare. Are you going to get this or multiple copies of this in a deck? Probably not likely, but if you did, if you had a couple of these, that's going to put a lot of pips into your deck. So a really strong card. Now, next up, this is one of the cards that we've only really seen from some Polish decks that got released and people found out about, and copies of some of the cards have got their way onto the internet. So many thanks to the Decks of Keyforge site that's captured a lot of that information. So this is Ambassador Liu. So the translation here, he's a mutant politician. Action: discard a card from your hand. If it is a Dis or Shadows card, steal an amber. If it is a Logos or Untamed card, gain 2 amber. If it is a Saurian or a Sanctum card, capture 3 amber. So the reason I've put this in, along with the pretty cool artwork, is quite a powerful card. Depending on what else you've got in your deck and in your hand, gaining 2 amber by discarding a card from an action, pretty powerful, better than just reaping. Stealing 1 if it's Dis or Shadows, again, could be more useful than reaping. Capturing 3 amber if you're getting rid of a Sanctum or Saurian card could be super powerful. And if he stays on the board and is doing that turn after turn after turn, plus helping you clear out your deck, then you can see that that's going to be a really, really powerful effect. Obviously going to be a bit situational. It's going to depend on what you've got in your hand that you can get rid of, that you're willing to discard. You're not going to be discarding super powerful cards. But if you've got cards that aren't going to quite work out, aren't really coming up at the right time, aren't that powerful in themselves, or you'd prefer this effect, then this could be devastating. Next up, Exchange Officer. Again, this is a card that we've seen in one of the print and play decks, and it effectively forces 2 Mavericks into your deck. So firstly, you get the Exchange Officer coming into one of your houses. Of itself, play, fight, reap effect, user-friendly Star Alliance card, so that's a great effect to have. Allows for some off-house play during, in this case, a Sanctum turn. So the example in the print and play deck was a Sanctum Exchange Officer. So that's great in itself, just being able to use a Star Alliance card on a Sanctum turn. But what it also does is it means one of the cards that would have been in Sanctum has now flipped over and is a Maverick into Star Alliance. So the example here again, that's a Champion Anafiel going into Star Alliance. So suddenly you've got 2 Mavericks in the deck. You've got the ability to use a Star Alliance card on a non-Star Alliance turn. Depending on what Maverick goes across into the other house, as we've seen with Mavericks, some are great, some aren't, some are hits, some are misses. But either way, I think this is just a great combination, and I think this is a card that I'd be really happy to see turning up if I've got Star Alliance in my deck, finding I've got an Exchange Officer in one of the other houses. I think I'm going to be pretty pleased to see that. Next up, another card from one of the print and play decks, and we saw it revealed by FFG on stream, Keyfrog. 2 power creature, destroyed, forge a key at current cost. Now, obviously not the most powerful creature, but why have I put it in here? I've put it in here just because, again, this creates a whole new set of lines of play. You think about all the ways you can force a key cheat, forge a key, out of step, different points in your turn, lock your opponent out of certain things. This could be great. Either you're playing it and you're using it to trigger a forge of a key on your turn in some way that's out of sequence or prevents your opponent from stopping you forging a key, or it may be that it blocks your opponent from board wiping, because if you're on check and they wipe the board, you're going to forge immediately. So there's a whole load of different ways this is going to synergize with other cards, hopefully in Mass Mutations, and create some really interesting play effects. So I think this is going to be a powerful card if it's combined with other cards that let you play off it, let you trigger it when you want to. So really excited about this Untamed card. And finally, I guess in terms of the great cards I've seen, a bit of a cheat here. There's 4 cards here. In fact, there's even more, but we've seen these 4. These are the Sins. So Dis now has these special rarity Sins. We don't know what all of them are. We don't know what all of the effects are. We know from one of the FFG streams that if you get these in your deck, you're likely to get 3 to 5 of them. And it looks like the more you have, the more powerful the effects could be. So if we look at Pride, for example, Reap, ward each friendly Sin creature. Brilliant if you've got a whole load of Sin creatures out on the board. Desire, for me, probably the one I like the most, probably the most powerful. Keys cost +4. If you Reap, you can forge a key at current cost, reduced by 1 for each friendly Sin creature. So this is really going to benefit you if you've got a load of Sins out on the board and your opponent's keys cost +4, your keys cost +4. So you're really putting them under pressure to forge, but you're able to forge at much closer to normal cost if you've got enough Sin creatures out on the board. So that again just tilts the game in your favour. Envy, Elusive, Reap, if there are 2 or more friendly Sin creatures, capture all of your opponent's amber. So you need those Sin creatures out in play, but that could become very dangerous. Obviously, it's got to be out for at least a turn. It's got Elusive to give it a bit of protection, but that's going to be a card that your opponent's going to have to take off the board very quickly if you've got a whole load of Sins either on the board or in hand. And the last one up here, Wrath, Taunt, Poison, Skirmish, Fight for each friendly Sin creature, Enrage an enemy creature. So that's the one to me that's a bit underwhelming compared to the others. Not in my mind the best, and we don't know what the other Sins will be. But overall, I think these look quite powerful if you get a good combination of them, and if you get them in numbers in your deck, it could create a pretty strong battle line with some pretty powerful effects. So I'm pretty excited about these. I'm keen to see what the other ones are. But if these turn up in a Dis deck along with some other disruptive cards, I think I'm going to be very happy. And I said the Sins were the last one, but I've got a kind of honourable mention here, Diametric Charge. It's an action, comes with 1 amber. Here it's got an enhancement on it for the second pip, but it will come with 1 amber normally. Play, deal 1 damage to a creature with 2 splash. And the flavour text, cool bots don't look at explosions. So honourable mention, is it the most powerful card? Probably not. Is it going to change the world? Probably not. Is it really, really cool artwork? Yes, it is. That's why it's in here. So I just love this card. I love the artwork. I love the flavour text. I think it's brilliant. Is it a pretty good functional card? Yeah, I'm not going to be disappointed if I see this in my deck. It's an action. It's got a pip. It's some immediate damage that can do some removal. 1 damage isn't huge, but we've seen a number of creatures in Mass Mutations, for example in Shadows, that are 1 power creatures, and the 2 splash is helpful as well, good for taking wards off creatures. So I can see it's going to be functional, but like I say, it's in here with the honourable mention just really because of the artwork. Love it. So that's it in terms of my rundown of best Mass Mutation cards according to me. Just my opinion, but as I said at the start, love to hear your comments, love to hear which cards you're looking at and thinking look pretty good, that you'd be keen to see in your decks. If you've enjoyed the video, really appreciate if you'd like it, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel as well. I'll be producing a bit more Keyforge content, whether that's gameplay streams or videos like this, over the next few weeks and months. Thanks for watching.